On September 4th, 1622, a Spanish galleon named the Nuestra Señora de Atocha departed Havana, carrying 35 tons of silver in 901 ingots, 255,000 silver coins, 161 pieces of gold, and an unknown quantity of Colombian emeralds smuggled aboard to avoid the penalty of 200 lashes and 10 years chained to a galley oar. The total registered cargo was valued at 1 million pesos. The unregistered cargo, gold bars with no tax stamps, loose emeralds hidden in personal luggage, chains worn as jewelry to dodge customs, may have doubled that figure. The Atocha was the rear guard of a 28-ship convoy, a 3-masted, 20-cannon galleon rated at 550 tons, built from mahogany rather than the traditional oak of the Havana shipyard just 2 years earlier. She had already sprung her mainmast and leaked badly on her maiden voyage, and the fleet was sailing 6 weeks late directly into hurricane season because Spain was nearly bankrupt, and King Philip IV could not afford to wait. The treasure aboard the Atocha had traveled thousands of miles before it ever reached the ship. Silver bars were cast at the foundries of Potosi, Bolivia, at 14,000 feet above sea level, each ingot weighing roughly 75 pounds and stamped with a serial number, a purity rating, and the Quinto tax seal, proving the crown had taken its 20%. From Potosi, llama trains carried the bars 120 miles overland to the Pacific port of Arica. From Arica, the South Sea Fleet hauled them 1,340 miles north to Panama. From Panama's Pacific coast at Perico, mule convoys crossed the isthmus along the Camino Real, a narrow jungle-choked trail patrolled by bandits and escaped slaves to the Atlantic port of Portobello. At Portobello, the Atocha's silvermaster, a Dutch-born official named Jacob de Vrede, personally logged every bar into the manifest. The loading process was so immense, it took 2 full months. De Vrede stamped each bar with his own mark, a simple V, certifying it was legally registered. He would sail with the treasure and die with it. Less than 48 hours after leaving Havana, the hurricane struck. By the morning of September the 6th, 1622, the Atocha had lost her rudder and foremast. A massive wave drove her onto a reef near the Marquesas Keys, about 35 miles west of present-day Key West, and she sank in 55 feet of water. Of the 265 people aboard crew, soldiers and passengers, 5 survived, clinging to the stump of the mizzenmast until the merchant ship Santa Cruz pulled them out. Among the dead was Bartolomé Garcia de Nodal, the explorer of the Straits of Magellan, and Lorenzo de Areola, a wealthy merchant from Potosi, who had loaded at least 66 silver bars onto the ship and was personally escorting them to Spain. 8 ships in the fleet went down that day, scattered across the sea floor from the Marquesas Keys to the dry Tortugas. Spanish salvage teams located the Atocha quickly, her mizzenmast still poked above the waterline, but a second hurricane hit on October 5th, snapped the mast and scattered the wreckage. In 60 years of subsequent searching, using enslaved divers riding brass diving bells to the bottom, Spain never recovered a single item from the Atocha's hold. 348 years later, an Indiana-born former chicken farmer named Mel Fisher decided to find it. Fisher had moved to California in the 1950s, opened the state's first dive shop called Sea to Sea, married Dolores Horton, who set a women's record by staying underwater for 50 hours, and relocated to Florida in 1963 to hunt the 1715 Spanish plate fleet off Vero Beach. He found that one. With the money in his pocket, he turned his attention to the Atocha and formed a company called Treasure Salvos Incorporated. His initial search, launched in 1966, was aimed at entirely the wrong location 10 miles southwest of Key Largo, roughly 100 miles from the actual wreck site. Fisher burned through years and cash before contacting historian Eugene Lyon, a doctoral student researching his dissertation at the Archive of the Indies in Seville, Spain. In February 1970, Leon unearthed a worm-eaten expense report filed by Francisco Núñez Melian, the man who had led Spain's original salvage effort, which placed the wrecks near the Cayos del Marqués, now the Marquesas Keys. Fisher moved his entire operation to Key West and started over. His primary tools were a proton magnetometer, which detects iron objects beneath the sea floor, and a device he invented himself called the mailboxes, two large elbow-shaped pipes mounted astern of his salvage boats, which directed propeller wash straight down to the ocean bottom, blowing away sand and exposing whatever lay underneath. The method was crude and effective. In June 1971, Fisher found a large galleon anchor along with silver coins and gold bars. In 1973, divers recovered thousands of silver coins, more gold bars, gold chains, matchlock muskets, and three large silver bars. Lyon matched the serial numbers stamped on those bars to entries in the Atocha's original manifest, held in Seville. The identification was definitive, but the main body of the ship and the bulk of its cargo remained hidden. On July 13, 1975, Fisher's eldest son Dirk located 5 bronze cannons, each weighing approximately 1.5 tons in 39 feet of water. Lyon confirmed their markings matched the Atocha's armament manifest. 1 week later, on July 20th, Dirk Fisher, his wife Angel, and crew diver Rick Gage anchored their 60-foot converted tugboat, the North Wind, near the Marquesas to begin work the next morning.
Dirk.
During the night, a bilge pump failed, the North Wind took on water, capsized, and sank. 8 crew members escaped. Dirk, age 21, Angel, and Gage drowned. Fisher buried his son and kept searching. He would spend 4 more years and $6 million before finding anything significant.
Right here.
Many people in the salvage world considered him delusional. In the winter of 1980, Fisher returned to a previously marked area. Using the magnetometer, he located old anchors and a mass of ballast stones, consistent with a 17th century galleon. By the following spring, his divers had uncovered not the Atocha, but its sister ship, the Santa Margarita, yielding $20 million in recovered treasure. It was not the prize he was after. Fisher's marine archaeologist Duncan Mathewson theorized that the Atocha's main hull lay south-southeast of the quicksands, a wide shoal near the Marquesas in deeper water. Fisher's youngest son, Kane, plotted a search corridor based on that theory, a line running from the quicksands past the Margarita site and beyond. For 3 years, working this corridor produced almost nothing. Then, on Memorial Day 1985, divers brought up 13 gold bars and 16 emeralds set in gold. 5 weeks of nothing followed. On July 19th, cartographer Ed Little examined a side-scan sonar reading and told Bleth McHaley, Vice President of Treasure Salvers, that he believed he was looking at the Atocha. The next morning, Kane Fisher positioned the salvage boat Dauntless over the spot, lowered the mailboxes, and sent divers Greg Wareham and Andy Matroshi to the bottom. At 54 feet, they found coins scattered across a crater. Then Wareham swam farther and discovered a reef-like mound 70 to 80 feet long and half as wide, composed of ballast stones, copper ingots, and dark bars shaped like loaves of bread. Their portable metal detector screamed. Kane radioed the news to headquarters. Mel Fisher's 16-and-a-half-year search was over. It was July the 20th, 1985, exactly 10 years to the day after his son Dirk had drowned. The recovery that followed was staggering. Divers brought up nearly 40 tons of silver bars and over 114,000 silver coins, along with gold bars, gold discs, gold coins, and gold chains, some as long as 50 feet, link by link, designed to be worn as wearable currency, with individual links broken off and spent. By May 1986, the team had recovered 450 emeralds weighing a total of 1.5 pounds. The following week, they found 174 more. The weekend after that, 2,300 additional stones came up. One single uncut emerald weighed 77 carats. Others ranged from 30 to 40 carats. The Gemological Institute of America examined 7 rough emerald crystals in 1988 and confirmed they bore the 3-phase inclusions: a solid, a gas bubble, and liquid trapped together, characteristic of Colombia's legendary Muso mine. There were also 43 intact coin chests and 28 partial ones, 20 bronze cannons, navigational instruments, rapiers, muskets, ceramic storage jars, religious artifacts including a gold rosary set with 9 cabochon emeralds, and personal items from the 260 people who died aboard. The heaviest single coin chest weighed 140 pounds and contained 2,516 silver 8 real pieces. The total recovered value was assessed at $450 million. But before Fisher could keep a single coin, he had to survive 8 years in court. Florida claimed title to the wreck and forced treasure salvers into a contract, surrendering 25% of all fines to the state. Fisher's company fought back in Admiralty Court, arguing that the wreck lay in international waters beyond Florida's jurisdiction. The federal government then claimed 100% ownership. The case, Florida Department of State versus Treasure Salvers Incorporated, reached the United States Supreme Court. On July 1st, 1982, the court ruled in Fisher's favor, awarding treasure salvers sole rights to the treasure. Fisher's daily greeting to his crew, "Today's the day," had become a kind of liturgy during the long years of searching, and it stuck. He used it for the rest of his life. He died on December the 19th, 1998, at 76 years old in Key West. The Atocha is not finished. The stern castle, the high rear section of the ship where the captain's cabin stood, and where the most valuable gold and the finest Muso emeralds would have been secured, has never been found. It was likely ripped away by the second hurricane in October 1622 and carried to a separate location on the seafloor. Also still missing are 300 silver bars and 8 bronze cannons listed on the original manifest. In June 2011, divers working the site recovered a gold and emerald ring estimated at $500,000, found 35 miles from Key West. In 2014, the Guinness Book of World Records listed the Atocha as the most valuable shipwreck ever recovered, with roughly 40 tons of gold and silver and 32 kilograms of emeralds. On June 8, 2026, Captain Drake Fisher, working from the salvage vessel Dare in approximately 50 feet of water, brought up a 22.5-pound silver bar, the first silver bar recovered from the Atocha site since 1999. The bar still bore an assay scoop carved into its surface 4 centuries ago in Potosi, where a Spanish official had gouged out a chunk to verify the metal was solid silver all the way through. The Fisher family's company, now called Mel Fisher's Shipwreck Expeditions, still holds federal admiralty rights to the Atocha and the Santa Margarita and their cargo wherever it may be found. The crew still works the site under permit within the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. The stern castle is still out there, somewhere in the sand, holding what may be the richest unfound concentration of gold and gemstones on any known wreck site in the Western Hemisphere. And every morning, someone on one of those boats still says the same 3 words: